Colorado Springs.
Nearly 500,000 people.
Olympic City, USA.
Garden of the Gods.
Pikes Peak.
It's a growing city.
Our local government has a lot of employees. What exactly do they do?
How does it impact my life?
This is where you find out.
Behind the Springs, an inside look at your local government.
Hey, we realize it's been a while since we've had Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers on our podcast. And so, Mayor, it's a good time to check in as we're off and running in this new year. Thanks for being with me.
Hard to believe another year's gone and another one's here.
It's gone by a little fast, and it's been a strange one for sure. Yes.
Very strange.
Yes. So we're hoping for bigger and better things this year, and we'll get talk about some of your goals and ideas about this new year. But I want to start with COVID, if you don't mind, and the pandemic and some of the news out there about vaccine distribution. Maybe we can start by talking about what our latest status is in that respect.
Well, let's talk about COVID itself. The good news is, we had a huge spike in the fall.
Yes.
And late winter. And the good news is that has really tapered off dramatically. A lot of cooperation from our citizens. We've moved to the point where we've got our restaurants open. We've actually gotten to 50% capacity, and some of the larger ones are able to take advantage of something called a 5-star program to get more capacity, and the numbers are trending the right direction, particularly the very important numbers, hospitalizations. That has gone down dramatically in the new year, and we feel very good about that. So the big challenge now is to get everybody vaccinated, and obviously we're subject to how much is available from the federal government coming to the state of Colorado, and then how much the state of Colorado distributes to the respective counties. There's been a little up and down in the sense that it became apparent to us after a couple weeks that Colorado's El Paso County was not getting 12.5% of the vaccinations, which would be our proportionate share population-wise. The state, to their credit, has acknowledged that, and for example, this week is really come up with another 20-some thousand doses over and above our regular allotment of about 9,000 doses. So we're going to make up for that deficit very quickly. We have basically a task force that the health department runs. We have a meeting every Wednesday that all the providers of vaccines, and those are the major hospitals, Peak Vista, major clinics like Matthews View and Optum. It includes King Soopers, Safeway, and now some pharmacies coming on, Walmart, and I mentioned King Soopers. After a while, we'll also have Walgreens and CVS getting direct allocations from the federal government. And then, of course, locally, DOD is supplying our military bases for purposes of vaccinating active duty and family members.
So that comes from Department of Defense. I
That's
didn't
right.
realize.
Yeah,
okay.
but it's an all very complex thing. But
Right.
we're staying on top of it, and I feel pretty good about the fact that we now have a way of contacting people that are in hospital or clinic databases, but also setting up events that people can sign up for with a phone call or a drive up, and we're going to have what are called some pop-up events where you just show up, and if you're in the appropriate age category, you will get a vaccine.
And it's great you bring up all the providers, because we haven't had quite as many of those, high-profile, large event vaccinations, although we're going to have a few. But a lot of these things are happening, by appointment only, but hundreds, if not thousands of doses are being administered. It's just not out in the open, so to speak.
We've administered about 75,000 doses, and that's going to pick up exponentially now. But for example, February 13th, 14th is a 5,000 mass distribution event at the World Arena. Mm-hmm. Last weekend we had one at Matthews View and Peak Vista, and you're going to see a lot of those. I think the 20th and 21st we're going to have one in the southeast, where but we would prefer people actually pick up the phone and get a time and everything, because it certainly helps us regulate the flow of people.
Correct. And we had Dr. Johnson on our last episode, but for those people who maybe didn't listen to that, elpasocountyhealth.org, or you can call 211 to get more information about the vaccine. Are you going to receive the vaccine?
Yes.
Okay. That just hasn't happened yet.
It has happened.
Oh, it has?
I
Okay.
have. Yes,
okay.
it has happened.
Okay. Good to know. You're vaccinated. So definitely something we encourage folks to do and find out the correct information and where to go. So I know our community's recovery is top priority. Any other things you're focused on right now, or what all does that involve in terms of economic recovery?
Well, the good news is that the city has, I think, proven itself among, if not the most economically resilient large city in America. We had serious shortfalls in revenue in March and April, 14% in March, 23% in April, and we were preparing for the worst. We were modeling for 30% revenue losses, 110, 120 million. But Jen, the city, we had a tremendous amount of construction going on, which continued unabated. Both residential and commercial was taking place at record levels. All those people buying new homes or furnishing those new homes or getting landscaping. Online purchases have been off the charts. It appears that people are actually buying more, staying home, spending more time online, buying things and stuff like that. And so we benefited tremendously from that. And so despite the fact that tourism's down 40% for the year, we actually finished the year in general fund sales and use tax up 0.45 over 2019. That's amazing. Now, we will probably have a total revenue shortfall of about 10 to 12 million because of like lodging and rental taxes way down, things like that. But the voters helped us out in November with 2A. We don't have to ratchet down to that new lower level of revenue going into 2021. So unless, we have some kind of unforeseen
Surge
setback with mutated viruses and things like that, 2021 looks pretty, pretty healthy. And if we can, get these vaccines to the point where we're back to normal by this summer and have a normal tourist season, it could be a great year for us.
Yes, that is the key, to try to get things back to normal for summer. So what are some other goals that you want to look at? And in terms of development, we saw the museum, we saw the new bridge, we've seen so much redevelopment downtown. What other projects are coming up that people can get excited about in 2021?
Well, there's a lot of really exciting ones. People that drive down Cimarron into the city will see the Widener Stadium. Every day I go by, and being a sports fan, I get pretty excited about it. And you can see now, get a sense that we're going to have an amenity, if you will, a design sculptor. I won't tell you all about the details. I think it's going to be the place where everybody goes in downtown Colorado Springs to have their picture taken.
Oh, great.
It's really quite something, and you can just see that starting to come up now. The stadium will be ready for the switchback season in May. We've already booked other events, including the NCAA Division II soccer championship in December. So that's very exciting. CC Arena, Robeson Arena, is going to be ready for next year's hockey season at CC. That's going to be a great facility. We've got the Shield Sporting Goods coming on in April. If you've never been to one, it's a combination of a great sporting goods store and an indoor amusement park.
That's what I've heard. I have not been to one. I'm excited to see it.
It's, aquariums and Ferris wheels and all that sort of thing. You've got the Ent headquarters building coming up this year. It's all...
We haven't been slowed down very much. It's amazing.
There's still hour-long lines at In-N-Out
At In-N-Out, yes, that's right.
I love hamburgers, but not that much.
Right.
I'm going to wait till the line gets a little shorter.
That's right. But really, a lot of exciting things happening across the city. It's not just centralized to downtown. There's a lot of redevelopment.
Complexes downtown, all around the city, new hotels. It's really been fascinating to watch. And, I know people have reservations about growth, but the fact of the matter is, I figured out, and the fact you either grow or you're stagnant. As I think I've said on this podcast before, just to meet the demands of kids graduating from high school or college in Colorado Springs that want to stay in Colorado Springs, we need to create 5,500 jobs a year, and that means growth.
That's right. And responsible growth. So that's the key.
You have to carefully plan it.
That's the
Make sure
key.
you got the water, make sure you got the infrastructure.
So speaking of some other fun things coming up, let's talk about the city's sesquicentennial or 150th anniversary, if you don't want to say that word. And I know that you did have a chance to go by the new COS at 150 exhibit, which kind of kicks off our different activities that we're having throughout the year to celebrate the anniversary. What did you think of the exhibit?
Well, I love the exhibit. Having lived here all my life, I think I probably identified with some of the exhibits that newcomers couldn't. For example, the Pikes Peak Community College, which is actually El Paso Community College at the time, aardvark basketball uniform. A lot of people don't realize that when El Paso
Aardvarks.
Community College started, it had a basketball team.
No.
And there's a uniform there. There's some fascinating exhibits. Hewlett-Packard was such a big part of the history of this town, and they make oscilloscopes, and there's an oscilloscope that Hewlett-Packard produced. There's the death mask of Stratton. There's just a whole bunch. There's a fabulous portrait of William J. Palmer when you first come in. I just thought it was a really fun exhibit. They have cars from the old Manitou Springs incline and things like that. I just loved it. I got to kick off the sesquicentennial year, and I, having been a Latin student in high school, I have no hesitation to talk Latin and talk about sesquicentennial and things like that. But I kicked off the year with the firework display on top of Pikes Peak. Beginning March 1st, I'm going to start growing a beard. That could be a really ugly event.
We're going to document that on social media,
That's what
I
I
heard.
understand. My wife is not the least bit excited about this. But I promised I would, and I'm going to give it a shot.
So if people are not aware, we're going to do a little thing called beards and bonnets. So if you want to grow a beard or wear a bonnet, make a bonnet, or both, or neither, but just to get involved in some way, we do have a lot of information on our website. That's coloradosprings.gov.
Yeah, we're going to have a big event at White House Ranch in June, where we're going to have a beard contest. I'll finish dead last. We're going to have a bonnet contest. We're going to have the brew masters around town are going to
are going to contribute,
things like that, and it's all going to culminate with a big downtown party on July 31st. In which, as I like to say, we're going to party like it's 1871.
We'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
That'll be really fun. So, a lot of fun and exciting activities planned, but, and you've talked about this before, but it really is important to look back at some of our history as you and I were talking at the beginning of planning for our future, even as we plan for growth. It's incredible as you go through that exhibit to see the then and now photos that are on display, very large photos of what our downtown area, for example, look like, or just the base of Pikes Peak and how different it is 150 years later. So the key really is, and I think the museum and everyone wants to hear from our residents on, what do the next 150 years look like?
Well, what's so exciting about, and one of the reasons why you want to observe a significant occasion like this is, number one, reflect on your history, celebrate it. A lot of good things have happened, and a lot of people have played instrumental roles in our city being what it is today. You think about William Palmer, you think about Spencer Penrose, Winfield Scott Stratton, all these folks. But it's also an opportunity to say, okay, through the hard work of all these people and all these citizens through the years, this is where we are, where we want to go. And it's a good time to reflect and think about what the city's going to look like in the future. And I think it's a very healthy part of this whole observance.
Speaking of your particular future as mayor, what do you see as some of those big things you'd like to see accomplished before the end of your term?
Well, I've been very fortunate. We've accomplished, I ran for mayor saying, number one, I want to fix the infrastructure. We had a $1.5 billion infrastructure deficit. And Jen, it's amazing that I can sit here 6 years later and say, we've pretty much overcome that infrastructure deficit with our latest settlement of our stormwater legal issues. We're fixing our roads, we're fixing our stormwater. That's been mind-boggling to me that we've been able to do it as quickly as we have. Job creation was the other thing I was after. Despite the COVID hiccup, that's been on an almost relentless path since 2015. Before COVID, we were creating about 8,000 jobs a year. I have every reason to believe that's going to quickly pick up again. And then the other thing that I'm very proud of is that, I was going to work very hard on a much more collaborative relationship between the mayor, the city council, the city of Colorado Springs, and other governmental entities, and I think we've accomplished that. So a lot of my last 2 years are kind of watching some of these things come to fruition, like these City for Champions projects. Tremendous amount of hard work has been put in, and it's going to be just fun to see these things come online. Obviously, things we continue to need to work on, affordable housing, how to deal with the homeless issues, infrastructure. As I think I've said on this program before, I'm very happy about the level of commitment that our local citizens are making. I am not happy at this point in time about the commitment that the state is making to infrastructure. Powers Boulevard is a state highway. We've got to expand Highway US 24 east and west. We've got to expand Highway 94 out to Schriever Air Force Base. We need the state to get serious about infrastructure investment also.
And that's a battle that's been going on your whole time.
Yeah, it has, and a lot of talk about it, but nothing's happened yet in terms of a major investment by the state in critical public infrastructure.
So that would be wonderful to see. Yeah. Another thing we forgot to mention when we were talking about big projects is the Pikes Peak Summit Complex, which is opening in the spring. Yeah, spring, summer, I guess.
We're going to have a kind of a blowout celebration for the new Summit House and the renovated Cog Railway at the same time. And
Wonderful.
Think about that. The Cog Railway is 125 or some years old. Investment of Spencer Penrose, as was the road up Pikes Peak. You really can't talk about Colorado Springs without talking about Pikes Peak. They're really virtually synonymous. There's a reason why we call this the Pikes Peak region. And the history is fabulous. When gold was discovered in 1859, just around Denver, the slogan wasn't Denver or bust, it was Pikes Peak or bust, because that was the first thing those settlers saw when they were coming across the Great Plains. We've, one of the most patriotic and iconic songs that we Americans take pride in was written because of Pikes Peak, America the Beautiful. Now the second oldest car race in America takes place on that mountain. One of the great foot races in the United States takes place on that mountain. And it's just a huge part of our history, and it's going to be fun as part, same year as the sesquicentennial celebration, to say, finally, after all these years, thanks to technology, we're able to build a summit house that reflects the grandeur of this mountain and isn't quite the bunker that the other ones were, where you just go in and get yourself a donut. And
you can still go in and get yourself a donut, but you'll get a lot more than that.
That's exactly right. You can have exhibits. You're going to have
amazing views.
Amazing views.
And accessibility.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. Anyone can experience it. So if you're one of those folks who's lived here a long time, or you're new and hasn't had the chance to go up, this is going to be the year to do it.
It is very much going to be the year to do it, by train, by car. It's going to be, I'm very, very excited about it.
A lot of positive going on. Well, we know there are a lot of challenges, but thanks for sharing your views on both. Really appreciate you.
Always glad to talk to you, Jen.
I appreciate you being here. And thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in, whether it's on Facebook or on our podcast platforms, to Behind the Springs. Thanks so much.